Okay, so I am going to start with a few introductions, and then Lauren has some wonderful content for us to talk about tonight. My name is Patty Smolin. I am your business reference librarian at the Schaumburg Township District Library. I want to thank you and welcome you to tonight's program. I love Lauren's title, ATS or Bust. We are going to learn all about the core words and possibly some bypass techniques and making sure that your resume, your good quality resume, is going to be seen by hiring managers or recruiters. So just a few things I want to talk about for housekeeping. This program will be recorded. Eventually, within the next day or so, it'll be uploaded to the library's YouTube channel. There are no handouts for tonight because Lauren is going to go through, she has about 20 slides, but she's also going to do some real-time examples for you. I want to make sure, I'm going to take a quick look at, yes, want to make sure that everybody knows our central library is still in its renovation stages. We are approximately a good halfway through, which means we started in June. We're anticipating that it'll be complete around May. And so we're about 50% there. The library has never needed to shut during this construction time. It's mostly all applied to the second floor. If you have any questions about using our resources and want to come pay us a visit, please do so. And also take a look at our site, because we're taking pictures on our website and on our Facebook page about all the construction that's happening, the innovative spaces that are being created, but access to materials, access to staff is still very present. Also, hello, on mute. Oh, someone is unmuted and no camera. She's at a dance class for her daughter. Okay.
Dance class.
So everyone is muted, just so you know. So we have just between Lauren and me, we are the only vocals, and I will be not vocal in a few moments. The reference staff offers a service called Book a Librarian, and we can do that either in person. We can also do it virtually. And what Book a Librarian does is, because we all work public service desk hours, it is a request by you, a patron that might be going through a job search and wants our assistance in demonstrating how our library services or sources could assist you in that strategy. And so it's a one-to-one dedicated time, approximately a half an hour during the Monday through Friday hours. And it just, I'll put the information in the chat, ask for our time, and we'd be happy to walk you, listen to what you're going through, and then see if we can come up with some solutions to help. I also have some upcoming programs. I'm going to just put those in the chat for you to take a look at. As a reminder, a lot of my programs center around those in job and search, career search transition, also those in a business startup or growth mode, and also financial literacy. So jobs, business, and cash is the area that I tend to focus on. Now, I would very much like to welcome back Lauren Milligan from Resume Day. If you remember, Lauren really came to our aid in the incline of the peak of COVID, when everybody's job situation changed in some direction. And she came and paid us a couple of visits virtually, which we were really pleased to capture. And it's still on our YouTube channel. I mean, it's 3.5 years old, but some of the content is still very relevant. And she's also brought some sessions back to us, as well as other libraries. So I love Lauren's approach to libraries. We should call her Library Lauren. And she just gets us. And so I'm going to turn this over to her. I'm taking my image off. If you have any questions for me, please do ask them. Lauren has asked, ask questions anytime throughout, but she's going to save them until the end. So thanks for everyone making time to come and spend time with us, and we will connect again at the end of the session. I'm just going to be in your virtual audience, Lauren.
Okay, thank you so much. And Patty, by the way, I do have to tell you, I was talking to someone about this presentation maybe about a week or so ago, and I said it's going to be at the Schaumburg Library, and someone said, "Oh, the Schaumburg Library is one of the most beautiful libraries." And I was like, well, I agree, but it was just like this was just right on their brain.
That's always a compliment that it never surprises me, because I don't take it for granted, and we love where we work, even with our dust, even with our dust and our demolition and the rest of it, as we get to rebuild some new spaces, I still feel that way. So it's nice to know that sentiment's out there.
Yeah,
All right.
and I agree. It's like, yeah, it's a really cool building, isn't it? So there you go. Wanted to pass that on. So, all right. So thank you so much for everyone for joining me tonight. We're going to be talking about ATS, and I'm pulling up my little thing here. There we go. All right. So ATS. And I want to hide my little, I'm sure you guys can't see this, but I've got Zoom stuff all over my screen that I need to say goodbye to. All right, fantastic. Okay, so ATS. ATS stands for Applicant Tracking Software or Applicant Tracking System. Now, ATS is a software program installed by the employer when they're looking to hire people. And ATS, for the purposes of the employer, it does like 1,000 different things. But for the purposes of the job seeker, ATS primarily does two things. Number one, it's the online application. And number two, it's the keyword scanner. Okay, so those are going to be what we talk about and what I really focus on how not only how job seekers can make their resumes work for this system, but then after that, I'm going to go through an actual ATS simulator online that everybody can use, and I'm going to walk you through it, but I'm going to walk you through it in a way that shows you how I improve what the system actually does with my own like secret tips, okay? So that's what I'm going to be talking about, and I will not be surprised if there are questions because I know this is new information and it's heavy information. So like Patty said, I am more than happy to take questions, but I want to answer them all at the end so I know that we get through all this content. All right, so let's start off by, let's see. There we go. Okay, so some ATS rules. Unfortunately, my very first rule about ATS is that no ATS advice is consistent. So if you listen to my presentation, you're going to hear specific things. If you listen to someone else's, there are a lot of us career coaches around, and you're going to hear some different things. But here's the good thing: as frustrating as that sounds, and I've talked with many of my amazing colleagues out there who talk about the same stuff that I do, the areas in which we disagree are usually pretty neutral, meaning someone else may say ATS doesn't like bolded words. Well, I'm going to tell you, bolding is just fine. ATS can deal with it. Here's the thing: if you do or don't, it's a neutral. It's not going to get you kicked out of the system. So if you ever do hear some conflicting information, just rest assured, chances are it's going to be on that kind of, well, like I said, neutral level. So you should be all good. But unfortunately, the reason that no ATS advice is consistent is because there isn't any kind of rule book. The companies who put out ATS that companies then buy, employers buy, there isn't any, here's the perfect guideline, guidebook to write the perfect resume for our system. That doesn't exist. And so, Taleo by Oracle, no hard and fast rules. Workday, GrassRing connects us. It's really just kind of, a lot of this is a guessing game, and that's where a lot of this frustration comes in. But stay tuned because you're going to be getting some good information on this. So my next piece of advice, my next rule is that you are writing for two readers, okay? The first reader of your resume is the ATS. It's the software. But it's not the only, and this is where some job seekers get so caught up in, I have to list all the right keywords. Well, if you were just writing for the ATS, I mean, literally, your resume could be nothing more than a list of keywords, right? But there is that second reader, which is the human. And the human wants to see a good story. So you have to put all of these keywords into bullets where the keywords are supported by and are supporting your accomplishments and the actual nuts and bolts of what you did on the job, okay? So remember that you're writing for two readers. My next rule is make the ATS nothing more than a formality, okay? ABC stands for always be connecting. In other words, network, network, network. If I were looking for a job today, within an hour, hundreds of people would know exactly what I'm looking for. I would be following up with people. I'd be checking in with people I haven't talked to in a while. I'd be talking to all my current colleagues, letting them know here's specifically what I'm looking for, so that best case scenario, and this happened to a client of mine just recently, at my urging of networking, and it worked like a charm. She networked her way into a company, talked with a couple different people. At the end, they were like, you know what? Shoot your resume through this. We just need it to come over. Even if it gets caught up by anything, I'll go into the system, grab it, and pull you into our system. That is the best outcome that you can hope for. But guess what? It doesn't happen if you're not networking. So always be connecting. Do everything that you can to make this system, this robotic program system, nothing more than a formality. And then my next rule is simple formatting. This is where a lot of job seekers get tripped up. Especially younger job seekers, they'll see really cool and quite honestly beautiful resume formats that will use different paragraph formats or charts and different images, infographics and stuff, and they can look really cool, quite aesthetically pleasing. But those don't work for ATS, because you put that into, you upload that into an ATS, and an ATS is basically saying like, it does not compute. And so what happens? That candidate gets spit out. So you want to make sure that you're using simple formatting so that you're not catching up or messing up the system so that it can't really even read anything that you're putting in there. And that's generally, by the way, that's generally what happens if you have any improper formatting or anything. I'll be talking about a bunch of these throughout, but that's what generally happens to your resume with improper formatting and such. It's not that you just are lower on the list. It will kick you out so that a human doesn't even see, unless they're physically going through looking for your resume, they're never going to see it. So, so all of this, the formatting and stuff is quite important. A couple more rules. You want to use simple language, okay? And that comes in two forms for the ATS. The first one is semantic searches, and that means words that are common among people. A couple years ago, I had a gentleman who was really frustrated with his job search, and he decided the way that he would try to step out of the pack and create some distinction in his resume was using really unusual unusual words. So instead of summary at the top, he said, a little bit about me. Instead of work experience or career history, he said where I've been. Instead of education, he put matriculation. And I understand what he was trying to do. At this point, it was just, a desperate Hail Mary, right? But ATS is never looking for the word or for the section called matriculation or anything like that. So use the expected, summary, career history or work history or history. And it's not just, you can only put career history and you'll get kicked out. That's not what I'm saying, because it's built in that it will accept an awful lot, but it's all the common ones. Okay, so you can't get too fancy in that area. And then the second part of the language is the resume keyword optimization, just like search engine optimization, which is driven by specific keywords. So is your resume, and I'll be getting a lot more into that as we go on, because that is everything. And I'll have people who have never worked with a resume writer before saying, you're going to put keywords in the resume, right? And I always assure them, and I assure everyone on this call, keywords to a resume writer is like salt to a chef. A chef, even the dessert bakers cannot do their job without salt. And that's the same thing with keywords and resume writers. And so you all, as you're updating your resume, you have to be thinking about the keywords first, because really keywords dictate so much of a successful search. So why do companies use ATS in the first place? Well, first of all, it automates the process. When a company such as Motorola puts out a job lead, within moments, they will have thousands of applicants. And that's just absolutely impossible for any even team of humans to handle. And so it just automates a really big, cumbersome process and makes it user-friendly for the HR department recruiters. It simplifies the results in the assessment. So it's really only going to be looking for very specific things. And it can't make judgments. It can't make exceptions. It can't say, well, this person doesn't have all the keywords, but I get a good feeling about this person. It's not going to say that. So likewise, it removes the emotions and the biases, which is actually in a candidate's favor, especially as we are looking to continue to bolster inclusion, diversity, bringing in people just based on, I can do this job. Here are my skills. Here's what I've done. That's the best. That's the best way to get a great candidate. Also, candidates use ATS because it parses with the most common job boards. So it's actually going out to other job boards that will then post its job, or that ATS will parse with other job boards to find candidates and bring them into the system. So it's kind of a two-way street. So it's just a way of not only putting the job lead out there so that candidates will see and apply, but also it's finding candidates who might have not seen this job posting in the first place. So if you're ever, if you're in a job search and you put your resume on, say, Indeed or CareerBuilder or Monster, or even LinkedIn, and you get an email saying, hey, here's a job that you'd be really good for, that's exactly what that is. The ATS system went through and identified you as a potential candidate based on your keywords and experience and whatever was programmed into there. And then employers love ATS because it's customizable to their particular system. They may need certain more things, or they may want to cut out certain things, whatever, but no company just buys ATS and plugs it in off the shelf. They're going to customize the heck out of it, which is important for job seekers to know. So let's say that you're going to apply for 3 jobs that day. And the first one you jump on and you see, okay, this is Taleo. Taleo is a very, very popular ATS program put out by Oracle. So you go and you do your application, and then you're going to the second one and you log in and say, oh, this is Taleo. Well, that's great. I just did Taleo, so I'm just going to remember and I'm just going to rush through this. Don't do that, because the employer may have customized their system so that it's actually quite a different experience. Even though it's the same software, you may have a very different experience from one application to the next. So don't let yourself get tripped up with that. So why not ATS? And when I say why not ATS, why do candidates not like ATS? So here are some of the things that I want you to be aware of. ATS absolutely 100% does kick out good candidates. Employers know this, and that is just kind of the cost of doing business and the cost of using a software program that really does make their life easy. How does it kick out good candidates? The very best, most qualified candidate could be using a format that is not compatible with their ATS. The very best, most qualified candidate may upload their ATS, or I'm sorry, their resume in as a PDF, whereas this ATS only takes Word documents. This most qualified candidate may not have used all the right keywords. So there are reasons why the very best candidates can get kicked out. And again, employers just know that, and that's the price of doing business. ATS is inconsistent from one system to the next, usually because of those customizing. It's not fail-proof. I cannot tell you how many times the client has called me in near tears because they spent a long time on, uploading their resume and typing everything in, and whoop, got the black screen of death. And I have a theory. I don't know this for sure, but I have a theory on why that happens. A lot of applicants will try to apply right away, like right when they see the job posting. Not necessarily a bad idea, because sometimes there are employers who will only look at the top 300 or 200 candidates that come in. So it's not a bad idea to get in. However, take a beat, take a couple breaths, don't apply right away. Let it go just for a little bit, maybe even an hour or two, while everyone else floods the system. You let all of them deal with the crashing the system. You wait a little bit and then go through that. You're going to have hopefully less chance of being one of those people that's in the middle of an application when the system crashes. So just wait a little bit. Now, I've even told people, wait until 1 a.m. or whatever, when chances are really, really low that no one is applying at that time. Now, I can't say that every single employer only looks at, the top 200 out of the ones who got through, whatever. So that's not always necessarily the case, but I do know that some employers do that. So you don't want to wait too long. You don't want to wait like the day before the expiration date or anything. But just like I said, take a beat, take a little bit, let everyone else flood the system, crash the system. And then as they're kind of figuring out what's going on, then that's when you can log on. Hopefully it's working at that time, and then you'll have a much better experience. A lot of these systems, there is no verification that the resume was accepted. I am hearing some reports, not as many as I'd like, but I'm hearing some reports that is actually starting to get cleaned up, which is really nice. Sometimes they'll even say, you'll get a nice little message. We received your resume. Thanks for applying. As we assess candidates, you should be hearing from us in the next couple weeks. Just something like that. But it's just a little like, okay, I know that it went through. And then lastly, candidates do not like ATS because it asks for redundant information. What I mean by that is you have to go through and type in everything. And it is going to ask for everything. So you're going to be typing in everything from your resume, all the dates and, everything. And then it says, and then upload your resume. Now, I have people who get really frustrated with this, and I actually know why this happens. So hopefully this explanation will make you feel a little bit better about this. Technically, your resume, well, not technically at all. Your resume is not a legal document. It is your marketing piece, right? You may not put every employer on your resume. You may cut out some of your experience because it doesn't have anything to do with this, whatever. So your resume is your marketing document. It's like a commercial. The application, as you're filling out your application, when you get to the end, if you've ever read the fine print, and it asks you to either sign it or give an e-signature, the act of signing, even digitally, says that you understand that the application itself is a legal document. So if it turns out that on the application that you gave false information, you talked about a degree that you don't have, or you stretched a length of employment, or you gave yourself a nicer position title than you had actually earned, they can go back to the application and say, this person lied in the application, that's a fireable offense. Now, excuse me, they also, let's see, then there's also some demographic information if they ask, and if you answer those demographic questions, then, signing and dating, they'll be able to use that demographic information in their own data, things like that. But the primary reason, I think the one that's most important, is that you are signing that what you said on the application is factual and accurate. But all of this combined makes a really frustrating situation for the job seeker. And for that reason, I'm giving you the cutest little baby piglet in the world, because you cannot be angry or frustrated when you're looking at adorable baby piglet. Okay, so let's move on though. We don't get to look at them for too long. So let's talk about some numbers. So ATS versus candidates by the numbers, and this is going to be a little frustrating too. 50 to 75% of applicants in general, and these numbers work higher for, these numbers are more accurate for larger companies such as Motorola, IBM, Google, Facebook, the companies who have tons of applicants flooding them. 50 to 75% of candidates are kicked out by ATS because they have wrong formatting, or they didn't follow exactly, they didn't use the right format. If the system is specified a PDF versus Word versus Google Doc, something in your resume does not compute with our system. Up to 75% of candidates are kicked out for that reason. And then after that, from the remaining 25 to 50% of candidates who did get through, another up to 24% of candidates are kicked out from that pool because of qualifications, or typos, or they just didn't have the right experience, or they weren't in the geographical area that the employer has designated. Something about, okay, based on this resume, we don't think they're going to be a good candidate. So the first big kickout number is because your resume and their computer system did not play nicely with each other. The second one is based on actual criteria and qualifications. Very, very frustrating. And guess what? This happens in moments. It's an automated system, so it happens lightning speed. And for that reason, I'm giving you a little baby panda, because you might have been one of those people in the 50 to 75%, or in the 24%. You're not going to know really either way, to be honest with you. But if you filled out an online application recently and you didn't hear back, for whatever reason, you fell into one of those numbers. Very, very frustrating. And there's not enough information for you to go on for you to say, what was it? Was it my format, or was it my experience? Because one of those you can fix. So it's very, very frustrating. And I get calls weekly, dare I say almost daily, from very frustrated candidates who are dealing with cumbersome and tricky cumbersome, tricky, and silent ATS systems not telling them what's wrong. So here's what we're going to do. The very first thing on your resume is zero out the headers and the footers. So in a Word document, and this is on Word, by the way, and I prefer Word, because every resume that's a Word doc will get looked at, or it will work with the system. Word works with every system. PDF does not work with every system. Google Docs does not work with every system. Some of them, but Word works with all of them. So that's my format of choice. So like I said, the first thing you're going to do is zero out the headers and footers, because in Word, a header and a footer actually acts like a mini PDF. And if you've used a footer to say page numbers or anything like that, when you add new pages, it just, the content stays there and it tracks the page numbers for you, etc. And that's how it's acting like a mini PDF. It's not gonna go away. Well, if you put information such as contact, your own contact information or anything like that, there's a very good chance that the ATS won't be able to take that out of your resume and plug it into their system. I want you to think of ATS like a claw machine. Okay, those claw machines that are in like carnivals and cheesy restaurants and stuff. You put a quarter and you try to win a little stuffed toy or whatever it is. Picture an ATS like that. Okay, so when the ATS wants to go into your resume and say, okay, where does this candidate live? Claw machine comes, finds normally where it would be programmed to expect your contact information, plucks it out, and puts it in their system. What is this client's work history? Here comes the claw machine, plucks it, drops it into their system. So that's really what the, in a very simplified way, that is what the ATS is doing. So if there is an area that's protected, such as a header and footer, it's almost like a force field over it, and the claw machine isn't able to get through and get the information. So just zero those out. I don't use them. Fonts. Okay, even the font that you choose can be problematic. So what I always say is just go with one of the fonts that naturally occurs on your resume. There are font stores online where you can buy beautiful fonts, and I've done this myself for different marketing pieces, etc. But you do not ever want to use an unusual, or I wish I knew if there was a term for all the fonts that are just naturally loaded onto the computer. But you don't want to use any of the specialty ones that you had to go out and download specifically, because there's a very good chance that those are just not going to work with the ATS. So the most common readable fonts, TNR, I've got that there, it stands for Times New Roman, but Arial, my favorite, the one that I use most often, is Calibri. Microsoft just killed it off. I don't know why, but we have Aptos. It's replacement. They didn't ask my opinion, but there's so there you go. But any of these would work. Technically, and I've had people ask me, kind of as a joke, I hope, yes, Comic Sans is one of those, but good Lord, do not use that on your resume. And then size font 10, 10 and a half, or 11 works best. I have had someone say that font that is smaller than 9 is not able to be picked up by ATS. I don't know if that's true, but I can't imagine why anyone would write in that smaller font in the first place. So that's one of those neutral rules. Just don't write smaller than 9. But I would say don't really write smaller than 10. Because if you do, it's going to look like you're just trying to cram in too much information into too small a space. Generally, I use either 10 or 11. Now, you can use larger size font. You can absolutely use larger size fonts. The only place that I use anything larger than 11 will be the candidate's name or the headers, such as summary, work history, education, etc. But the main content, the main body is going to be either a 10 or an 11. Now, like I said before, Word documents are best, but here's the little trip up. I have heard from recruiters, so this is not just anyone's guess. I've heard from a couple different recruiters that they have had problems fully uploading, or the ATS has had problems parsing information in Word docs that were formatted in the most recent extension, which is .docx. Okay, so, and I want to say that I want to say .docx came with 2010 or 2013. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if you saved a Word doc right now and you have a newer version of Word, chances are your document is being saved as .docx. You can go into that save area, click on File Type, and pick .doc. And this is where it starts to get a tongue twister, because I'm saying doc and dot far too often. But just remember that. Try to remember. Now, I've had other recruiters say, no, it uploaded just fine on my system. So it's not across the board, but I've heard this now from multiple recruiters saying, yeah, I just tell everyone to use the older version of Word because the newer version, and what it is, just so you've got an idea of what's going on, the .docx extension, when Microsoft upgraded or created that version of it, what they're doing, those documents include additional security features. Security features for what? I'm not exactly sure, but apparently it's almost acting like another version, like PDF Lite. And I think that in that PDF Lite version, it's creating a little bit more of a force field, which the older version of Word just does not create whatsoever. So PDFs. Now, I have people that say, oh, I only want to upload my resume as a PDF because I don't want anyone messing with it. Well, first of all, no one is messing with it. I promise you. No one's doing that. But if the directions when you start to upload your resume say formats accepted, Word, PDF, as long as you see them saying that a PDF is okay, then go ahead and upload it. But if you don't see that, please just trust me, upload your resume as a Word document, and no one is messing with it. You don't have, there's just no evidence that that has ever happened. So please don't worry about that. Now, older, and we don't have to worry too much about this because most of those are completely off the system, out of commission now, and people have gone to much more streamlined and slick and more automated and updated versions. But previously, you would have to put every little bit of information on its own line. So for example, my name, my city, state, zip. You don't need your street address, by the way. Phone number, all of those would have to go on their own line. Well, now that's not true anymore. New versions of ATS, and when I say new, I'm talking about like in the past 20 years, okay? So all of them, basically. Now what's acceptable, a lot of information can go on the same line, and ATS figures it out. It's been programmed to figure that out. So the reason I'm showing you this, because I'm telling you, hey, you don't have to worry about this anymore, and you didn't know it was a concern in the first place, but the reason I'm showing you this particular information is because it is okay to put information, and I could have even put all the city, state, zip, the phone number, the email, and the LinkedIn profile. I could have made the font for the purposes of the slide, could have made it really small and put it all on the same line. That works. Okay, so you can do that, which is nice because you get to save a lot of room on your resume. Every time you save a line space, you're saving room. But the other thing that I wanted to point out from this slide is that while you don't have to put your street address, you do have to put a city, state, and zip code, even if you're looking for remote work. The reason being is, well, a couple things. First and foremost, employers want to know if you are located outside of the country. Second of all, if they have employees in different states than theirs, now there are some tax issues. And, that's payroll and accounting and human resources and all of that stuff that they may or may not be prepared to handle. So it doesn't, if you're looking for remote work, it doesn't necessarily, it won't exclude you if you're not in the same area, but companies want to know that up front, especially with remote work. Now, let's say it's not remote work. They especially want to have this information because they want to know, when it snows in January, and it's going to snow in January, it's going to be the storm of the year, right? Because it is every January. Are you going to be someone who is so far away from the office that as soon as the weather gets a little icky, you're going to be calling in saying, I can't get out of my driveway? Or are you going to be close enough where you're still going to be able to make it, in the bad weather, etc.? So generally how this is handled with ATS is that the employer, if it's not a remote position, the employer would put in the zip code of the work site, and then it would tell ATS, we're looking for within a 50 or 60 mile radius. If there's really great public transportation, like to Chicago, they could extend that a little bit, assuming that someone's going to take the train, but that's exactly how it's handled. They'll put in the zip code and then extend it a certain number of miles. And then if you're still outside of that mileage, that could be one of the reasons why you're kicked out. Let's see. Okay, and then you want to use common. This gets back to the semantic language, using the most common expected. So summary statement. Here I have career history or professional experience. You could use work experience, work history. This is not, as long as it's one of the expected ones, you're going to be just fine. Skills, education, volunteer, all of these are fine. If you have any questions on this, just let me know. But generally, if you're using an anticipated category header, you're going to be just fine. Just don't use something that's so unusual trying to be unique. So a couple other formatting rules here. No boxes. This is huge, and this is a big reason why people either get kicked out or they get a really low score. By score, I mean ATS scores you on how well you match with the keywords and the qualifications, etc. So boxes. What is a text box? What is a box, I should say? A box is a text box, And when are text boxes used on resumes? The way that I see this most frequently is people will bring in a text box and put it like kind of in the margins of the resume. And this is where they may put all of their keywords as kind of like a call out section. And it actually looks pretty nice. I like it. But that box acts like a force field. It acts like a mini PDF. And it's, yeah. So a lot of times I'll see keywords, or I'll see selected accomplishments, or I'll see little bits of LinkedIn testimonials that they've received. Anything that's like, this is extra special, so I want everybody to be paying attention to this. Smart concept, unfortunately, with ATS says, I don't like this. That's going to mean either nothing in that is counted, and if you put your keywords in there, that means you're not going to get credit for any of those keywords. Or it's going to say, what is this? I don't get it. This does not compute, and it's going to dump your resume out. One of those two things will happen. So no text boxes. Tables. When do I see a table? I see a table on plenty of resumes right under the summary statement. A job seeker will put a table into their resume, and this is where they list out their core competencies, which again are keywords, but they'll put them in a table so that everything is lined up really nicely, beautifully. It lines everything up perfectly, but again, a table is a box. So even if you make your table grid lines invisible, it's the back end formatting that catches and acts as a force field. So no tables. If you're going to use a core competency section, just type your word and then tab over and then type the next word if you want them to be all lined up. Personally, I'm not crazy about the core competency section anyway. I would rather save that room and use those keywords in the bullets where they're going to have more impact. But if I was going to make a core competency section, I would type in the first keyword and then put in what's called a pipe. And the pipe is the straight up and down line above your enter key. I probably have an example of it somewhere in here. If I do, my eye will catch it and I'll let you know. But I generally put, so let's say customer service, and then a pipe, and then sales, and then a pipe, and then project management. I'm getting a lot of more words in that space. That's if you're not going to use the tab over. I'm following all this in my brain because this is what I do every day. I hope I'm not getting anyone tripped up on this. Let's see, two-column formats. Two-column formats are a very popular style of resume. It's a lot of creative people use this one. I don't think I have an example on here, but if you want to Google two-column formatted resume, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But it's basically where some information is in this column, some information is in this column, and guess what? ATS has no idea what to do, where to look, anything. So it's very likely that none of that information is going to get parsed. The format itself just messes with ATS badly. And the last box that I want to tell you about is a page border. And when you think, page borders look so elegant, and it is one big force field that keeps everything out. Nothing. ATS is not going to get to parse anything, not your name, not your zip code, not your accomplishments, nothing. So page borders, gone. Any of these things like this two-column format or page border or text box for call outs, anything like that, you could use that in your resume that you leave behind with a person, not with the resume that you're going to upload into the system. Okay, so if you want that editorial and aesthetically pleasing look, you can do that. But again, just promise me it's going to be the resume that you personally hand to someone or even email to someone to open. But it's not going to be the resume that you upload into a system. Terribly important. Horizontal lines, bolding, capitalization, all of those are absolutely fine. But with horizontal lines, and I use horizontal lines to separate the summary from the work experience, etc. Just make sure that you don't have any of the content sitting directly on that line. So where you insert the line, just make sure that it's not right on top of any already written typed out content. Your to and from dates always go in the right margin. That's where ATS expects to see them, and so that's where it's parsing. A lot of times I'll see the to and from dates in the left margin before the employer name or something like that, and I know for a fact ATS isn't looking there, and so they might actually use your to and from dates as the employer name. It just messes up with the system. So those to and from dates always in the right margin, which is traditionally where they are. Or anyway, so I hopefully I'm not, yeah. Moving on. Let's see. So the title of the company and the date, as I said before, are fine to be on one line. Something else to leave off besides boxes: any images, graphs, charts, all that extra stuff. Add that to the leave behind resume. Bullets, whether it's the round bullets or the square bullets, and then of course the open versions of those for sub bullets, just fine, no problem, as well as bold, capitalized, and italicized, but no accent. Okay, so for example, resume, we're going to use the Americanized version of resume, not the French version. If you have an accent in your name, unfortunately, for the purposes of your resume, leave the accent off of your name. An accent usually is registered by ATS as a typo. So yeah, it is what it is. I write many resumes for chefs, especially during the pandemic when hospitality, closed down essentially. So I write a lot of resumes for chefs, and chefs cook entrees, but in their resume, it's just ENTREE without the accent. And I've had a couple of chefs say, "Wait a minute, Lauren, you didn't type this right." It's like, "Oh, right, I forgot to warn you about that. You're not going to have accents in, above the word entree." So keep that in mind, no accent. Now, I want to quickly talk about how people try to trick the system. And it's really funny. I think that every generation comes along and thinks that they've either thought up something really clever or they've discovered something that no one has ever thought about. And I'm dealing with that right now, where I've got a lot of younger people saying, "Hey, here's a great way to get your resume to pass through the ATS so that you can get an interview." And I'm seeing this a lot on TikTok, and people think that they're the first person to think of it, but technically, as a resume writer who's been doing this for 20 years, and I have worked with people who've been doing this a lot longer than me, every generation has come up with their version of a trick of it, okay? So it's nothing new, but here's the thing. No employer, no recruiter, no one who looks at resumes is ever going to fall for this. So here's what it is. So here's my summary, but let's say that I'm looking for a job that requires executive leadership, executive strategy, experience with being on a board of directors, and what else did I think? I think project management or something like that. I know if I get an interview for this job, I would do a really good job. But legally and ethically, I can't put those particular words in my resume. But I just know that those words are a smaller part of the job. I know that I can do this job in every other way. So what I'm going to do is try to trick the system by somewhere on my resume, I'm going to type in those words, and then I'm going to take my mouse and drag the cursor across those words and change it to white font. Because that way, the resume has those words in there. They're going to be read by the ATS. And isn't that brilliant? Well, TikToker, no, it's not brilliant because no one falls for this. And there's been a version of this, let's see, what is it now, 2023? There was a version of that in 2013 and in 2003 and in 1993. There have been different versions of trying to trick the system in this exact same way. So it's not smart, and it's certainly not groundbreaking. Every recruiter is familiar with ways to trick the system. And here's what's going to happen. So let's say that you do get through that ATS and it qualifies you as a really, really qualified candidate. Again, who else besides the ATS is reading the resume? is the human, is the recruiter, right? Or the hiring manager. Well, they're going to go in and they're going to say, wait a second. Oh, wait. You know, Lauren doesn't have, I don't see any work on here with board of directors, but it's saying that, you know, the little tick off, you know, check mark on my keyword list is saying that that's on there. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing this. So what that person is going to do is go into their system and go back into my original uploaded resume. They're going to take their cursor, drag it all, you know, all the way, and then change it to black font where these words show up. And then they're going to say, congratulations, Lauren Milligan, you just got blacklisted. You're not going to get, you know, if I did that, I would get pulled out of consideration. Okay, so do not try to trick the system. Now, the ATS simulator that I'm going to show you, and oh good, we're doing okay on time. The ATS simulator that I'm going to show you is, the website is here, theprofessional.me. Okay, I'm going to give you a really good insider tour on this site. What this is, again, the word simulator is so important here because it's just a free online tool that you can compare your resume to a job ad and figure out how your use of keywords in your resume compares to the keywords that are in the job description. Sounds great, right? There are about 10 reasons why that is, it is great, but there's about 10 reasons why that's a flawed system. And I'm going to explain all of them to you and show you how I have created workarounds so that you can make this as powerful of a tool for you as possible. Here's what I want you to know about the professional me, though. This is not connected to any employer. It is not connected to LinkedIn. So it really is just a standalone tool that requires you to input information and do with it what you will. By using this, you're not going to be getting any spam or emails. It's not going to ping anything on LinkedIn to your users or your employer. It's a completely independent system, okay? There are other ATS simulators out there. I have worked with many of them, and this is the one that I come back to time and time again. Number one, because it's free. Many of the others charge money to use. Number two, the flaws in this system are on par with the flaws in the paid system. And number three, I have found easier workarounds in this one than I have found in the other versions and the other ATS simulators out there. So for those three reasons, it's free and it's about as user-friendly as can get. That's why I keep coming back to the professional me. I have no stake in this. I don't get, you know, I'm not invested in the company or anything. This is a really, really good tool, one that I'm very comfortable using and recommending. So what we're going to do is, here's my contact information. Don't worry that it's not done. It's just what I'm going to do is switch over, do a share screen on the professional me. I want to stop while I'm getting that all loaded up though. Oh, and this is my little dog Gemma, who's been next to me the whole time. When the pandemic started, she'd always want to look in the camera, and you know, so she became Zoom famous, and now she's over it. So you can write down, you know, keep my contact information. While I'm switching over, Patty, I'd like to ask you, are there any questions in the chat from this part of the presentation that I can address now?
Thanks for taking the pause. I do not have any questions at this time. We've got 15 people on. If anyone does have a question, please either use the Q&A, which I've been monitoring. I don't see anything coming out.
Okay.
Or the chat. But thanks for taking a pause right now.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to then jump on to, let's see. Oh, I have to wake up my internet so it knows I'm actually going to try to get there. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, it's just dragging a little bit. All right. So I think There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna share screen and
Lauren, I'm sorry, hold the phone for just one moment if you could. A question did come in.
sure, great.
A patron says she has a question regarding resumes in general. True or false, are summaries necessary to have?
Okay, so I think that's a great question because I'm going to say true and false. Technically, do you need a summary statement? No. Would I ever put out a resume without a summary statement? No. So by the letter of the law, no, a summary is not needed. But if you ask me, I would say that yeah, it's true. You absolutely need a summary statement. Summary statement serves as an introduction, and it's your chance to really tell the employer what part of the job you love the most, how you can distinguish yourself from other candidates, things like that. This is not my, I'll say this, if this were my resume presentation, if I had an hour of the presentation, I'd say the first 40 minutes deals with the summary. Because to me, it's like one of the most important parts of a resume. So technically, by the letter of the law, no, you don't need one, but there's no reason why you wouldn't want one. Just because it sets up the tone of your career, not only your career history, but also your goals. It's the introduction to who you are, and if written really well, it entices the employer to want to know more about you. So it's just yeah, to me, it's necessary. I would never write a resume without one. So I love that question. I've never been asked that question. Okay, so anything else, or should I move on to this?
Yes, we've got a few more questions. One, I'm going to say, someone has just asked, what are the common category titles for a resume? They miss seeing that screen. Patron, if you can hold off, I'll ask Lauren at the end to go back and revisit that screen. And also keep in mind that that this has been recorded as well. But we'll ask Lauren to go back to that one. And then I have two more questions.
And I just made a note for myself to go back to the category screen. So
okay. And the question that you just answered for the patron about summary says to say thank you. She's been debating with some mentors about the summary issue for a while, so she appreciates you saying that they are. One question just came in through the Q&A asking, are references needed on a resume, and does ATS do anything with that?
okay, what a great question. Another great question. I love that. And I really like this question a lot. So your references do not belong on your resume. And as a matter of fact, your references do not want you just willy-nilly shooting their contact information out unless and until they've actually decided to bring you in or they've requested them. Okay, so first of all, I think it's, and not that anyone would ever intentionally do this, but I think it's irresponsible. Like if I'm a reference for someone and they're just applying everywhere, that means that my information is getting into an awful lot of systems needlessly, and I don't like that. That makes me nervous. So no, only provide your references either when they're requested by the employer or which is generally in an application, but some employers do request them before or during an interview or after the interview when they know they're moving on, but just wait until they're actually requested either by someone or as part of their online process. So they should not be on your resume whatsoever. But here's another reason. If that wasn't reason enough, just ethically and responsibly being, treating your references well, here's another reason. References on the resume or that little verbiage of references provided upon request, that's actually an age trigger. Both of those things are age triggers, and the assumption, and there are many, many different age triggers. We won't get into them in this one, but an age trigger means an employer is going to look at that and say, oh, this is an older candidate. And, I'd love to say that no, that doesn't happen. Who would ever do that? You better believe that it happens. And I talk with recruiters all the time, and the things that they say, don't send over candidates who, insert whatever here. I'd love to say that I've got phenomenal recruiters who would never do that, and I can't say that, unfortunately. So yeah, anything about references on your actual resume is an age trigger. Sorry.
No, that's an excellent point. I will tell you, I've had some. I'm terrible at guessing any patron's age, but some younger patrons that have come to me with resumes, and while I am by no means a resume review professional, I will see it at the bottom and I'll say, may I ask why you're adding this? And they'll say, yeah, because one of my parents told me I should. So
Yeah.
it might be an age trigger, but at the same time, it's being passed down. It's like a legacy gift.
Right, legacy gift. I like that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And when a young person does it, it's because they, referred to older information.
Because our
older
generations
advice.
have tried to be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. But we don't know. We don't know, right?
So last question during this break,
Yeah.
before we proceed, is with ATS, does your resume stay out there? For example, if you reapply for the same job, would it get flagged?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times what ATS will do is if you apply once, it's going to get in their system for that particular job. However, if there are other jobs that you're a really good fit for, a lot of times you'll get flagged, there'll be a ping like, oh, this person, because when a new position goes up, a lot of companies will go to their already created list of candidates. Okay, you know how like in the olden days, dating myself, employers would keep resumes on hand for like a year or 5 years or whatever it was. And that's because as jobs came in, they would go into that desk drawer and pull out their resumes and, flip through and everything. Well, this is kind of the same version of that. And there are companies who, quite frankly, you could technically, again, by the letter of the law, you could apply again. Employers don't necessarily like that because then you're kind of mucking up their system. So just apply once. If there's a different job in that company, I would say you could apply again, even though it's very likely that you're already in that post. But if it's for a different job, at least it's not going to be like, oh, this person's just applying over and over, thinking, it's like playing the lottery. The more, it's a numbers game. No, when you're applying, just apply once for every position. You also may get a note back after you apply saying, if there are similar jobs, you will also be, I can't exactly remember the phrasing, but I have had some candidates tell me that when they were done uploading their resume, the little message confirming that the resume was received, it actually did say, we will see if you're a good candidate for the other open position. Trust me, not every employer says that, but that lets me know, yeah, that's actually going on. So that's a good thing.
Great, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. Good, awesome question. Okay, so by the way, one other, and I'm not going to make this into a full discussion, but one other age trigger, and this is like my way of starting a bar fight. 2 spaces after a period. Age trigger, sorry, just supposed to be 1. So I'll just drop that and go on. I'll let you deal with the chat from all the people who disagree with me, Patty. Okay, so this is the professional.me. And Patty, you're seeing this, right? I want to make sure Zoom is working correctly.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, good. All right, so this is the professional me. Now, remember when I said you won't get any spam or anything like that? It's because this first portion where it says sign up here, I've been using the professional me for at least 10 years. I don't know for how long, but at least 10, probably more years. And not once have I ever signed up. They don't have my name, my email. I never created a password, nothing. What I do when I'm here at this site, I scroll down to the bottom. So I ignore all that stuff at the top and I say, I see this part, find your skill gaps and support the HR robot. You are here. So you see 2 boxes here. This first one says resume. The second one says add. If you've been following what we're talking about, you probably have a guess of what we're going to be doing. You're going to upload your resume into this box, and then you're going to upload a job ad into this box, and then I'll go down a little bit. Then you see this red submit button. You'll click that, and what happens then, the next screen that comes up is going to show us a match. What it does really fast is when you click submit, it goes to the job ad and it pulls out, and again, this is really, really fast, but it pulls out what it believes are the keywords from the job ad, and then it takes that list and compares it to your resume, and that's where the match comes up, okay? So what I've done is made a dummy resume for a sales representative. So let me copy back. Okay, so I'm going to paste this resume, and John candidate. I have before here just for my own, so I know which version I'm showing you. Here's some contact information. Here's a summary, and then all his work experience and all that stuff. So this is just a normal resume that I've pasted into the resume. Now I also have a job ad, and I went onto LinkedIn and grabbed this off. And so, let's see, that's the right one. And there we go. All right, so now I'm going to copy this job ad and paste it. And I will say this: don't mix up, don't paste the resume into the ad box and the job ad into the resume box. It doesn't work. The numbers are wrong. Guess how I know? Okay. So here I've populated the resume and the job ad with a job ad that I pulled off of LinkedIn, so it's a real job ad. And I'm going to click submit, and then we'll see how it turns out, and I'll explain what every step of this means. Okay, there we go. So right off the bat, let me scroll down a little bit. You see right here, keyword hit rate is 28%. Now you see here, keyword frequency is 58%. I really don't pay attention to this part, the keyword frequency. This is not important to me. This is not essential. It's good, it's not bad information to have, but it's not really what's going to be creating your action, okay? What's going to be creating your action is this keyword hit rate, because here's what I want you to know. Generally, employers expect an 80% or better match rate. So it's not 100%. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but it's 80%. So now when someone gets a 28% hit rate, that means that there is work to be done. And here's what I'll share with you. I think every single time when I've ran someone's resume in here against a job lead, it's usually in the teens and 20s. So this is not a rate that surprises. This is not, I don't look at this and say, oh, this is worse than any I've ever seen. No, this is actually quite average that I see the first time out, okay? So so what this says is we've got work to do. So let's look at the rest of the screen here. Now we've got this table here, this graph. So you see the keyword with a bunch of keywords underneath, the job ad, and the resume. You're going to see three colors. You're going to see yellow, green, and pink. The yellow means that this particular keyword appears more times in your resume than it did in the job ad. So to me, yellow means great. Okay, yellow is gold star. You don't have to do anything more with this particular keyword. The next one that you see is green. And you can see here, it's mentioned in the resume 3 times, and it appeared in the job ad 5 times. Now, for the purposes of, this kind of gets to the frequency, right? But here's the thing, you have the keyword in there. So maybe later you want to go in and put in some more of these occurrences or words, but just for the purposes of right now, fitting the keywords in that need to be there, green is good. Okay, so there's great and there's good, and the great and the good we don't have to deal with right now. No work to be done. But it's the pink that I'm very concerned about, because this means this has been triggered as a keyword, and you can see it appears 3 times in the job ad and 0 times in the resume. So what I do, and by the way, I really want to explain that I do this for every resume, okay? Every resume that I write. So as cumbersome and confusing and detailed that these instructions are going to be, with doing it over and over again, muscle memory sits in and it gets really, really easy. Plus, the more you do this, after 10, 15 times or whatever, your resume is going to be pretty keyword rich where your results get better and better and better. Okay, so this is going to sound really cumbersome and crazy. It gets easier. So here's what I do. I highlight, and by the way, let's take a look at how long this list is. Okay, here's the whole keyword list, and you can see there's some yellow, there's some green, there is a lot of pink, okay? So what I do from this point is I'm going to copy this chart, and I'm going to put it into a Word document. Okay, so then I would just copy it. I already have this pulled up. So now, let's see, I need to make sure that I can do a new share. Let's see. And I also have to make sure that the right document is pulled up because I've got many of them. There we go. All right, so third, second, first scan. Okay, so this is the one that I want to share. Okay, so this is the copied table. Okay, the first thing that I do, going down. The first thing that I do from here is get rid of, and there are two, you can only see one, but first thing I do is get rid of the columns. So I'm just going to delete these columns there because I'm going to be deleting rows. I'm going to be adding in rows. I'm going to be reorganizing. And if you do that and the columns are still there, the other two columns, it's just going to mess up your formatting. So just to make it easy, just take away so that you only have one column, and that's the one with the words. Now, remember, I only want to deal with the pink. So what I do from here is I highlight and I'm going to delete all the rows that are anything other than pink. And I wish there was an easier way. Well, there is because I actually have, oh, well, that's not, okay, I'm almost done. But, so I have a new, there we go, new share. Let's see. And that one is going to look like this. Okay, so as you can see, I've deleted all the yellow and all the green, so I have this. Now, what I'm going to do from this is take this, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. What I'm going to do here, and this is where, remember when I said the professional me, it's not perfect. There are flaws in this system, but I found a workaround, and that's going to look like this. I'm going to go back to the professional me. Okay, now I'm back on the professional me, and this is the chart that I just copied. So as you're going down here, this is the job lead, and all the orange are the highlighted words. Okay, so now here's where the first flaw kicks in. The professional me will never pick up on all the words that I think are keywords. So I need to go through here and I need to pick up words that the professional me did not count as keywords. It also, on the other, it does exactly the opposite as well. It picks up keywords that I don't believe are going to be keywords, okay? So at this point in time, this is where I have to do a lot of revising and correction. Again, the more you do this, the easier it's going to get. But when you're first doing this, it's a pain in the butt. And I realize that, and I'm sorry, but this is the work that's involved in this particular, and this is the best system that I've found. So, but right off the bat, build a qualified pipeline of new client opportunities. Well, I'll tell you something. If you're in sales, that's the role that I picked for this one. If you're in sales, pipeline absolutely is a keyword. You better put that in. So what I would do is go back to my list in Word, And on one of those rows that I had taken out, or I would add a couple rows, I would type in pipeline. Going decision makers. Let's see, key opportunities, maybe there's pipeline again, not highlighted. But I would go through this entire thing, okay? And so I'll show you what that looks like. Let's see, I think that's this one. This is where it gets difficult for me to, okay, good, add-ins from the job lead. Okay, so qualified pipeline, client opportunities, CXO, which is customer experience officer. It's kind of a new fancy title. But all of these, I think, are going to be keywords that were, now this is a mix. This is a mix of the old keyword list that I first created, as well as bringing in add-ins from the job lead. And I think I also went through and deleted out, let's see. Yeah, I think so. And then I deleted out a lot of the words that I don't think are going to be keywords. And this is where, I know job seekers are always kind of, they don't know what are going to be keywords and what aren't. The other, and by the way, this is a really, really good use for Chat GPT if anyone's using that. In Chat GPT, your prompt could be, you are my resume writer, give me a thorough list of keywords for a sales representative with more than 10 years of experience, or whatever your particular job search is, for an entry-level sales representative, for an accountant, a CPA with more than 20 years experience, whatever it is, you can give those kind of prompts, and it's going to pull up a good list of keywords that you can also bring into this list here. The reason I say with more than 10 years or more than 20 years or entry level is because if you have more than 20 years, it's not going to be pulling off entry level keywords. And if you are senior level, the keywords that the employer plugs in for their search is going to be at that more experienced level. Okay, so you just want to have the right fitted keywords at your career level. So then, now I think that we've got a pretty good list here. So what I would do from here is, oh, and by the way, if you're in sales, always add a $sign as one of your keywords, because quite frequently employers actually make a $sign. Again, if you're in sales mostly, this is where I've seen this, because you should have dollars throughout your entire resume. And if you don't, that's a big heads up. That's a big red flag to employers. So always just, I just automatically do it. I put a keyword, I put a $sign in there as a keyword. So what I would do from here now is copy this whole list. So I would copy it, and then I would paste it here. Let me actually do that, copy. And then I'm going to go into the professional me again. And then as I scroll down, here are those same two boxes. So I don't need to hit the back button or anything. Here's the resume box, here's the ad box. And I am just going to now paste in that new keyword list that I made that I feel really good about, okay? And then against that same resume, I can click submit. I'll tell you, I don't know, well, let's see if it changes. Because what I would do from this point is not necessarily worry about that old resume anymore. What I would do, oh, and it went up a little bit, nice. So then from here, what I would do is take this keyword list and any of the pink, I'd put that in a Word document, print it out, and then I'm going back to my resume. So let me go back to, let's see, the first resume. There we go. So this is the first resume. I would go back, and now that I've got my keyword list, I would say, where can I fit all these keywords into my resume? I'm either going to add keywords into bullets that are already created where I can just naturally fit them, where they'll make sense with the wording, or I'm going to remove some bullets and rewrite them with the good keywords. I'm going to take out some of the, the bullets that really don't hold any impact. They don't hold an accomplishment. Ideally, every single bullet in your resume would consist of two things. It would have a keyword or two and an accomplishment, preferably both. So it would have a keyword or a couple keywords and an accomplishment. That's a good bullet. That's what you're going for. Now, once I would do that, then I could take the new resume and do a new search. But I'm going to stop my share for a second. Okay, so I hope everyone understands this, and like I said, I'll be happy to answer questions. But here's the problem with this system in general, and this has nothing to do with the professional me at this point. There is no guideline, rule, law, stern words. There's nothing that says an employer has to make sure all of their keywords that they're looking for is in the job description. So often they're not. A lot of times an employer will be working off of an old job description. So they'll enter the job description, people are applying, and then they go over here and they program the keywords that they want to see. And so the job description and the keyword list almost look like, two different documents. They're not necessarily working off of the same knife. Now, obviously some companies do, and that's very wonderful and progressive, and they're going to get better candidates. But, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're working from a job lead that was poorly written, does not have a lot of keywords, maybe could be outdated by a couple years, how great is your resume going to be if you're using just that job lead as your North Star? Not going to be great. So I do what's called the stacking method. And if you are completely lost on this, you're really not going to like me in the next 30 seconds. And this is why I'm so glad that Patty is recording this and uploading. So you can actually go through this and you can rewind and say, what did she say there?
We're all still with you, Lauren. We are. Stacking method. Let's
Good.
go.
All right. So the stacking method is this. I'm going to go into LinkedIn and I'm going to find not just one sales job. I'm going to look at other companies and their sales jobs, not the same company, because there's, the one company may not write job leads all that well. I'm going to find sales jobs for other companies, and I'm going to pull those off. And when I do this with 6, 7, or 8 different job ads. And so I'm going to create one super long job ad that I actually copy the entire thing and paste that into the professional me. And so let me show you what that would look like. Let's see. Okay, so I've got one here that is 3 job leads. So it's not even as long as I usually do, but here are 3 job leads just back to back. And just break in one, break another. And so that is then what I'm going to square up against. Here, let me show you what this looks like. This is what I'm going to then put into the professional me. And to be honest with you, because I know I'm going to be doing this anyway, I just automatically do this. I never just look at one job lead. I automatically find a whole bunch. So this is just 3. So let me get into the professional me with this. And this is what I would actually do. So now looking at that old resume against 3, the very first, I think, percentage match was 28, if I remember correctly. And this is where the numbers start to become really, really unimportant, because now our hit rate is 23%. But that's 23% against 3 different job leads. So the numbers are no longer important. All we're doing at this point is just trying to create a really strong, solid keyword list that you can then match your resume against. So let's say that we've done that, okay, and I'm still going to use that last, and I think that's what it was. So I'm still going to use that last job lead that I've got, but I went through and updated my client's resume. Let me pull this, and then we'll do another scan off of a resume that has been updated with the list that we now created from those job leads. Oh, why aren't you doing share here? There we go. Am I there? Let's see.
Submit seems to still be pending.
Yeah, I don't know if, I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's that, like, my screen is frozen. Let me just do a stop share and I'll just start a share again. That might wake it up enough. Okay, so it's saying it's loading. Oh, good. Okay, so now you should be looking at the professional me. So now I'm going to load in my updated resume after working off a really good list of keywords here. And submit that. Oh, wait, I think I uploaded the wrong one, but that's okay. That's all right, we'll still see. And, come on. Yeah, all right, I uploaded the wrong list, but that's the final. That's the final. Okay, so yeah, anyway, okay, so we're running short on time, but here's what I want to go back and tell you and show you. So let me go back to professional me. Oh, see, now it's doing that again. So let me stop share and go back into this way. Sorry, everybody. There's always going to be a Zoom glitch here. Okay. So once I incorporate more than one job ad, these numbers, they have no bearing on what I do anymore. I'm not really even looking at them because as long as I know I have these words in here, I'm going to be good. But again, keep in mind, the professional me is not tied to any particular employer. So it's all just, I mean, I hate to call it a guessing game, but it really is. Now, the good thing is the more you do this and the more you're reading job leads and familiarizing yourself with keywords, that guessing game is based off of really good guesses. Okay, and that's what we want to get to. So I know that this can be tricky, but I'll tell you something. For my experience, for my 20 years of doing this, what I do, including the stacking method, really is the best bet that I've found of getting good keywords in your resume and making sure you have the right version. One problem, another flaw, I guess, with the professional me is they don't necessarily give you credit if you have, like, the keyword they could find is negotiate. And in your resume, you could have negotiated. Well, the professional me is going to say, is not going to give you credit. It's not, that percentage is going to be low. Real ATS looks for the root word, okay, the root of the word, not the right tense. So, you're going to see negotiated, negotiating, negotiate, all of those. You're going to say, oh my God, how many times do I have to have this in there? Don't worry about that. As long as you have the root word, you're going to be okay. You're also going to see, and this is in almost every job lead, you're going to see communication skills, written communication skills, verbal communication skills, written and verbal communication. No, if you think that that's going to, at your level, if you think communication skills is going to be the keyword, just put that. Again, this is just a program, a website that can only do what it's programmed to do. It can't, like I said, it doesn't look for the root word. It doesn't look for different versions, things like that. So I don't want people to really stress out thinking they have to get, every verb tense, every version of, communication skills, things like that. So you can kind of rest easy on that. ATS is not as persnickety as the professional me. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
We do have some questions though, unless you you
I
want
have
to
time.
take a breather and a sip? Um, we've had some suggestions and we've also had questions. So,
Great.
one that has been waiting is, should we include career gaps in our resume? And this person is the patron is also saying, thank you for all your valuable insights.
You're very, very welcome. I appreciate that. So career gaps, for me, it depends on how long that career gap was. If it's, if it's anywhere under, I mean, my goodness, fortunately, career gaps are not the verboten, the sin, that people thought it was years ago, because everybody's got a career gap. And when they fall in our careers doesn't really matter either, because I know there's the COVID bubble, like, well, no one was working during COVID. Well, that's true. So that's a career gap, that's fine. But if you have career gaps that either expand that or are way before COVID, it's still okay. People are much more understanding about that. But how long was the career gap? So if it was a year, I only put years on my resumes. I don't put months. So technically, sometimes you can get rid of a career gap just by listing the years. If it was longer, let's say you were, a mom who left to watch kids. Or right now, we've got a lot of people voluntarily leaving their careers to take care of aging parents. So how long is that career gap? If it is something that's sizable, that you feel the need to address it, just one little line in smaller font. This is where, quite frankly, I use like a 9-10 font. You can say voluntary gap in career to care for family. Also spent, and then if you did any kind of career related stuff, like got a new certification or anything like that, I'll tell you this, if you're currently or anticipating any kind of career gap, also pick up some kind of certification from LinkedIn Learning or something. Do something that you can also put, spent that time earning this certification or familiarizing myself with Excel, or just something that says, but I also did a little bit of career stuff too.
We've also had some recommendations from one of our attendees that was saying what you were covering in the topic was reminding her of a similar website called Teal. I'm not familiar with it, so I always learn a lot from my patrons. That allows you to customize, tailor your resume bullet points with the help of AI based on a current resume and job description. And then same attendee just is reaching out, which I think is a really nice gesture, for actively searching applicants in general for free network and support groups.
Yes, networking, always be connecting. So Teal, I am not a fan of Teal. Okay, I'm familiar with it. I'm not a fan because in my experience, the resume bullets that it writes look so AI written that you have to go back. Now, it might give you a couple of good ideas, but to me, the bullets were not high quality. They were not really even thought provoking. And so when I read the bullets created by Teal, it's like, I don't even know what to do with this. So I just kind of felt like I was starting back without any new information that would even inspire better thoughts. To me, it's not caught up enough against it. And by the way, you could have a different experience with it, and I totally respect that. Just in my own experience, it was not worth, it just wasn't a good tool for me.
Well, I think that covers all the questions that we have. One of the things I really appreciate when you touch on this is there are certain taboos that were taboos, from the 30 plus years that, that I've been in the workforce. And, there are triggers and the rest of it, and some I'm not ashamed of. I just think they're kind of comical now, those of us that learned how to type with the two spaces after a period and the rest of it. But there are reasons that I try to explain to certain patrons when I see a lot of formatting and boxing and the rest of it, but my explanations haven't really been there. I know there's an ATS block, but I really could never offer the reasons why. And so a lot of encouragement for attending this particular session, and also why I asked you to please record it, is because I needed to know the why behind my reasons for that.
Good. I'm really happy to hear that, and I hope I gave enough of the whys. This is one of those things where I always have to go back and listen to what I'm saying because all of this is second nature to me. I've done this 10 times already today, for in an actual with an actual resume, client. And so I never want to just kind of skip over this stuff because to me it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Versus a lot of people who are hearing this for the first time. So hopefully everything that I get to go through makes sense. And I know it's a lot of information, so everybody, go have some ice cream or treat yourselves nicely tonight because you've sat through a lot of information that is not always easy to digest. So thank you for that.
Well, we're getting some very, very nice compliments from others that you can pick up on the chat as well, saying that, your content and delivery was helpful and thanking us for hosting, which we're always really glad to do. So unless anyone else has any other questions for Lauren, we're going to bring this to a close. Just as a heads up, this recording should be available. Today is the 13th. I'm going to give it a day or so. It could be tomorrow. It should not be any later than Wednesday coming up. So thank you all very much for your time. I'm so sorry for that glitch. I was so ready for tonight's program, right? And then it was literally 45 seconds right before we went and I went down and had to come and re-enter my own meeting. So yeah,
That's Zoom. That's Zoom.
Oh yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. There is that question. Can you go back and do the categories again? Thank you for the reminder.
Yes.
That screen that had the categories to address that one person's question.
I can and I will, and I'm happy to do that. Let's see. Let me get into. My screen just disappeared. I'm not sure what it's. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let me scroll through and whoops, screen sharing is stopped as the shared window is closed. I don't know what that means, but let me try again. Share. Okay, so. Oh, here we go. Okay, so. It should be coming. There we go. Oh, geez, it's going to make me go through the whole thing. Sorry.
No, I think it was lucky number 13. Today is the 13th, and I think that was slide number 13.
Okay, there you go. There you go. All right, so you'll just get a really fast pressure on everything. Come on. Okay, there we go. All right, so common category titles, summary, career history. Again, this other one, career history, professional experience. If you put work experience, work history, those are going to fit in there just fine. Skills, or core competencies, those two are fine. Education, volunteer, license designations, certifications can fit in there as well. Technical, if you are in IT or anything where you need to list a lot of different software programs, platforms, languages, things like that. This is not an all-inclusive list by any means, because like I said, there are others that I didn't list, but again, it's just a really good reminder to use the expected, don't play too fancy with your category titles. Just list the ones that people expect to see. And if you have any specific questions, like I say this, is that weird, just shoot me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to answer them there.
Great. Well, everybody, thank you so much for attending tonight. Lauren, thank you so much for bringing this to us again to wrap up the end of 2023. I hope you all have a lovely holiday season. Please come and visit me at the library. You don't need a hard hat. We'd be happy to give you a tour over the sections that have been completed and the sections that are in the works, and you will see it coming up in the spring. So good night, everyone. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.